Welcome back, Frith Guild listeners. This week, we're diving deep into the gripping chapters 16 through 20 of Warlord Arcanist by Shami Stovall. The tension is palpable as Volke and his friends find themselves navigating through new challenges and forming unlikely alliances. With every turn of the page, Stovall masterfully weaves together elements of magic, strategy, and character development, keeping us on the edge of our seats. In these chapters, we witness pivotal moments that redefine the dynamics of the group and their mission. The stakes are higher than ever, with the looming threat of enemy forces and the constant test of loyalty and courage. We'll explore the evolving relationships among our heroes, the new revelations that shape their journey, and the intense battles that test their resolve. Each character's growth is both compelling and heart-wrenching, adding layers of depth to this already intricate tale. So, grab your books and settle in as we dissect the key events, themes, and character arcs in chapters 16 to 20 of Warlord Arcanist. Whether you're a first-time reader or a long-time fan, this discussion promises to uncover new insights and spark engaging conversations. Let's delve into the magic and mayhem of Stovall's world together.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm co-host, Scott.
And today we'll be going over chapters 16 through 20 of Warlord Arcanist. And before we get started, I want to wish everybody a happy New Year's. Hopefully you guys had a good New Year's Eve. I don't know about you. I'm one of those. I don't stay up for the ball drop anymore. That's too late.
I stay up for the ball drop and then go to bed.
Okay, I seen it. Turn the TV off and walk to bed.
Yep, we made our New Year's wish. We're good. Well, at the bed now. So
hopefully everybody has some great resolutions this year. My resolution is to read more books, even more than I did last year. So we'll see how that goes. And with that, Scott, did you make any good resolutions this year?
I'm not big on the resolutions. More of like if I decide I want to do something, I'm going to do it, whether it's in January or May. I do have kind of my stack of books from Christmas that I know I'm going to make it through though.
Heck yeah, sounds like good to me then. We also want to thank everybody for listening. If you can like, subscribe, share, comment, whatever it is you can do for us, that'd be very helpful. Also want to remind you that we do have the Frith Chronicles wiki link down in the description and also for the Capital Station Discord server as well. Just one last reminder is January 9th is Labyrinth Arcanist. We're getting so close.
So close.
So with that, we will jump into today's episode of chapter 16, Unworthy. So at the very end of the last chapter, King Odion
Odion.
I'm going to say Volke. Basically challenges Volke to a magical duel because he thinks that Volke is this pathetic person, and it is called the Magi Cross, and it is a strictly Arcanist only, no Eldarin help, and they have to use only weapons or items that they personally have made. Odion is basically saying, like, I will not pledge towards your alliance if he does not agree to this. So he backs Volke into a corner. He also did something really freaking bad, and he called Luther a pathetic Eldarin, and I freaking hope he rots in the abyssal hells for that.
Take that back.
You don't know what you're saying. Terrakanna is listening to this whole thing going on, and he's just like, I don't know, this is kind of stupid. Like, this is kind of barbaric. Just King Odion just beating his chest, basically, because if Volke dies, then the World Serpent dies. And look, he can second bond to it, so, but, So, they also think Volke is weak because he didn't win the apprentice level at the Sovereign Dragon tournament. And this is all because of Lucian, who's there, and is like, Lucian did any better during that Sovereign Dragon tournament.
No, and we all know that there was some backhanding that Volke probably could have won it, but instead chose to save a friend. So Volke also just does not tell that story.
I don't know how he did it, but I wouldn't have been able to keep my cool like that. I would have been like, oh, screw you, dude. Can't even produce a proper aura and then think that you're Billy Badass and all that. I would have lost it. So again, they can only use magical items that they themselves have created. So Volke has Forefriend and Retribution. I mean, Retribution is pretty OP. That's realistically, that's really all he would need, but
Yeah, I don't think Odin really knows what he's going up against here. There's a lot of tricks in Volke's bag that he doesn't know about.
again, because he didn't give Volke a chance to give him more than a one-sentence answer to his questions, he would have known this. Freaking idiot. King Odion is wearing dragon scale armor and has a two-handed sword called the White Curse made from a hex albatross. And Tariq, who is his assistant or his general or whatever, Tariq wants to duel right now. He wants to get this thing over with, like, no more worries. Even Eventide was like, hey, let's do this tomorrow morning. Like, nah, we're gonna get this over with now. Zelfrey kinda sorta gives Volke a hint about the Twilight Dragon as they're outside, and he just kinda like points up so that way Volke looks up, sees the Twilight Dragon hanging out. And as the Magi Cross starts, King Odion uses his light to blind Volke, and Volke has definitely fought more than one person, and he can predict the opening moves enough to be able to do it blind, literally.
Which is wild. Like, he's like, oh, I'm just gonna guess. This dude has a two-handed sword. It's probably gonna charge. The overhand swing. Absolutely crazy.
I'm gonna dodge this way. It's gonna be okay.
That brings us to Chapter 17, Magi Cross. So Volke's magma, essentially trying to kind of create a little bit of a barrier between him and Odin. The light disappears, and this is really kind of strategic move because Odin has control of light and darkness, so he can now use the shadows. He can shadow step similar to Volke. Volke, however, kind of knows how to deal with darkness, so again, not really sure what you're getting into there. He was a Nightmare Arcanist. Odin throws these beams of light and wind at Volke, and Volke is able to catch them with Forefend and fire them back, but Odin is immune to it essentially, so it's not really a good strategy. Volke sees Odin go into a shadow step and is able to kind of again predict where Odin's gonna be, step around it and get a little hit in. Odin goes to essentially chop Volke's arm off, but when he cuts through his arm, he gets to the bone, which, because of the magma that has been evoked, is now rock solid. So he cuts to the bone, but can get no further. At this point, Volke kind of gains the upper hand, is able to put Odin in a compromising situation with his sword, and then proceeds, like a villain, to monologue. And I will say, the fact that he monologued during this, I think is absolutely hilarious. I will say, this is my favorite monologue of all time. He goes on this rant about how he had to save someone to bond with Luther, how he got through the curse by gaining a true form Eldrin, how he trashed the camp, evacuation site. Of Second Ascension, how he went through the World Serpent lair, how he lost Luther, and then carried, to the World Serpent to bond with it. So, absolutely amazing monologue. But I just picture the guy from Incredibles. You caught me monologue. Since they're so close at this point, Volke does get a better look Odin's Arcanist mark, and he realizes that he is second bonded. So the Twilight Dragon was actually bonded to someone previously. Volke decides that he's going to let Odin live, that it's a waste of talent to kill him at this point, so lets him go. Odin forfeits and swears his loyalty to Volke.
Chapter 18, Fealty. Volke is just absolutely awestruck. Somebody is swearing their fealty to him. Not to the Frith Guild, not to the Second Ascension, or like to help fight the Second Ascension, to Volke. Like, Volke has people now.
I'm gonna let my people get in touch with your people.
He's got people to go get people. Volke talks about how the Javan warriors are absolutely fierce, and King Odin talks about how Javan warriors are said to be absolutely fierce and compared to being able to fight off about 12 other warriors to their one. And we're not even talking about bonded Arcanist warriors. We're talking just straight mortals. That is pretty epic. So good thing we got them on our side now, as his entire nation is now sworn directly to Volke. And we back to the conference room so we can continue on as to what we were talking about earlier, as if nothing else happened.
Back to a regular meeting, so all hands call. Let's pick up where we left off.
And we start kind of talking about who's going to be allied with Volke, kind of how things are going to go. He's got another island nation willing to swear their fealty to Volke. This one, sorry, I don't want to jump ahead of it.
This is where they want him to change terrain, and even Todd's like, kind of slow your roll, like this. There's better stuff.
Second ascension first, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have another island nation leader willing to swear her fealty, but she wants to have terrain change. And thankfully, even Todd's like, hey, like we need to get through the second ascension first, make that the priority, and then if we win this whole thing, we'll work with you on that. So he does have to be very careful about what he promises to what nation, because he is now essentially, he's a politician now. Much as I hate to say it, like, Volke is not that person. He's never been that person. He's very much so been the get in, get out, and get done. Now he has to take a view from 10,000 feet versus view from 5 feet. So he's got to zoom out.
That brings us to chapter 19, Loyalty Beyond Death. Volke explains the second ascension, explains the autarch, everything that's going on. They're gonna go make informational pamphlets to hand out, which just felt like the most 7th grade thing ever. Like, we made brochures. Lucian does come and talk to Volke. He's on the hunt for Akiva after the Grand Master was slain. He has captured a member of the Second Ascension and is looking for Volke to help interrogate him. Doesn't really have any info on the autarch, but he's like, yo, I got a prisoner. We get this, again, funny interaction with O'Dion and Volke. He calls him my liege, and then has to explain to Volke why he is technically my liege, as opposed to any other title. So a nice little insight into what Volke doesn't know about the fancy world.
But even the way that Odion was like, okay, well, if you're ignorant, that means I'm at fault for causing you to be ignorant. So goes through all of that. We also find out that Volke gets his own freaking compound in Fortuna. And Volke's like, I can't just take this. So, like, okay, well, you can use it while you're here. Very least. Only if Schoolmaster Timms could see him now.
No. Man, were you wrong about him? Volke, Lucian, Zelfrey all go to the docks. Lucian discusses with Volke and says, like, hey, I'm not going to align with the World Serpent Arcanist. Like, my big thing is revenge. That's worked out really well for everybody in every book so far that's tried it. So I'm going to go with that plan. And again, I have a prisoner.
And in chapter 20, the fake Griffin Arcanist, Lucian does have a brig-style ship that's called the Midnight Thorn, and it's kind of passed along from Inquisitor to Inquisitor, but since all the other Inquisitors are dead, it's kind of is like, how do you be excited about that, or do you just kind of like,
It's that weird, like, awkward inheritance where it's like, hey, your whole family died in a car crash, but you get a boat.
Yeah, it's a really nice boat. Lucian is talking about trying to get information out of this prisoner who's a pirate, and he said that he's tried to do the whole beat him up interrogation tactic, and basically wants Volke to go in there and do Volke things to interrogate him, and I'm not sure how or why Lucian thought that Volke would be somebody that would be great at interrogating, but
we're like, I don't know what else to go to. Again, my whole guild died.
I guess that's a fair point. You could trust Volke at least, so there's that. And I imagine Volke going in there and being like, what do you know? And then he's like, I don't know nothing, I ain't talking. He's like, okay, I tried, I'm sorry, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, but
Thankfully, Zelfrey came along with us, because Zelfrey is one person that can definitely get information out of people. And Volke is probably sitting back there like, let me write this down so I can, for next time. The man does mention that he's bonded to a griffin cub, and Volke immediately raises the bullshit flag because he's like, there's no way you would have bonded with a griffin cub. And the guy's like, well, yeah, I did. I completed this trial of worth all on my own. And I know authors use words for reasons. This is one of those moments of like, that's a really odd statement to say that he completed the trial of worth all on his own. So we'll have to remember that later on.
yeah, whenever you see that awkward phrase, it's there for a reason. He's like, I'm not lying to you. I completed the trial of worth.
I did it. I'm bonded, I swear. Zelfrey finally gets to the point and asks if Callisto was this guy's pirate's lover, and we decided that Deligus is probably the best person to come in and get this information from, because the pirate's kind of like, meh, I'm not talking.
I thought this interaction was really funny because even Tide was like, yo, you're gonna interrogate somebody. You don't know what you're doing, take Zelfrey. Zelfrey knows how to interrogate people. Bolt walks in, asks like 2 questions, and goes, I don't know what I'm doing. Zelfrey, can you help? Zelfrey comes in, asks 1 question, were you and Callisto lovers? The guy says no, and Zelfrey goes, we need to get a Deligus. What did we bring you for?
And then Lucian is like, oh god, if Volke and Zelfrey can't break this guy, like a Deligus character must be freaking a beast. Like, he must be some intimidating brute, because, well, they're pulling out the big guns now. And then the whole time you're just sitting there like, no, I mean, he's not really intimidating. He can read your mind. That sucks, but that's not the only reason why he's doing it. Zelfrey heads back to the Frith compound now, because Volke's got a compound for him, and Fane drops his invisibility and talks about how he doesn't really feel like he belongs with the guild anyways, and that he would much rather swear his fealty to Volke than he would to continue with the guild, because the guild would kind of like a consolation prize for cutting off race handlers. So Fane just yeets his guild pendant into the water.
Nobody cares about these guild pendants. Volke threw his away at one point, Fane's throwing his away.
Elliot threw hers away, your drop just... God.
Does it mean nothing to you?
Right? Shit, I would love a guild pendant. Yeah, I have one, but I would legitimately want to be in a guild with other Arcanists. So from this point on, Fane, Odeon, and we have another person, and I don't remember her name, but they are all calling him my liege, and I totally picture the like super frivolous like gesture of bowing and everything.
Fancy bow going.
Every time they say it. Just because. And with that, we are going to end today's section. We got through our 5 chapters, and we are now going to go over the Twilight Dragon. And in the last section of chapters, we talked about briefly about why the Hex Albatross sword was so important, and how he thinks that Luther was such a pathetic elder. So the Twilight Dragon is a mystical creature that is basically best of both worlds of light and dark. They are basically white when the sun is out. They have 2 heads, have leather wings, claws, and tail that splits at the tip. Like I said, the Twilight Dragon is white during the day and black at night, and at the hours of twilight, both dusk and dawn, the dragon has half white scales, half black scales. And I always thought, especially with the updated cover art with the paperback, I believe, of the World Serpent Arcanist, it has like split down the middle, one's white, one's black for the Twilight. Now, the trial of worth for the Twilight Dragon is that, and again, dragon, so you know it's going to be pretty gruesome. that the Arcanist has to be bonded previous, and that they have to kill their Eldraine, and with blood still on their hands, approach the Twilight Dragon. Now, really crappy part about this whole bonding portion of it is if the Twilight Dragon doesn't feel the Eldraine that they had previously isn't sufficient, they won't bond. So not only do you not bond, but you also kill your own freaking Eldraine. Like, they are a tier 4 mystical creature, and they do have a fabled birth, and they're only born when shooting stars come across the sky during a solstice or an equinox. That's actually really freaking cool. Their evocation is solar winds, and they're basically able to blast superheated wind. Their manipulation is shadow, as we've seen earlier. They are able to manipulate darkness, similar and pretty much just like the nightmares. I imagine because they're tier 4, they're probably better at it, though. Unfortunately, I bet Luther probably, true form Luther probably would have been able to whoop his ass anyways, but that's just me. Their augmentation is also shadows, and they're able to augment themselves or others. They are able to grant the ability to shadow step through darkness, and their range of shadow stepping is quite larger because of the fact that their dragons have more ability to it. So instead of just giving people the ability to see in the dark, they are now able to give people the ability to step in the dark. That's freaking awesome. I'm going to say that a lot about this, I'm sorry.
They're so cool.
I'm going to say freaking awesome a lot. Their auras are eclipsed, same as the nightmares. I like the similarities, a lot of similarities with the nightmares. Their innate abilities are that they are able to see in total darkness. They're also, because of the fact that they turn white, they're able to see through blinding amounts of light as well. Delegus would actually not be able to keep Volke or keep King Odion blinded. They're also, because they're dragons again, they're also immune to the effects of Nullstone, and I'm not sure if it's second bonded to the individual creature. So like, if King Odion like bonded to his Eldraine, I'm gonna guess X Albatross. It's never actually officially stated, I think, but we're gonna assume. So he's bonded to this Twilight Dragon. Is the Twilight Dragon had another person bonded before? Or is it second bonded because he had a second creature?
The way I interpreted this, they talk about the Kingdom of Javan essentially being a trial by death monarchy. So my assumption was the previous ruler was a Twilight Dragon Phoenix. Odion challenged him to a Magic Cross, won, killed his Hex Albatross, and then bonded with, because Volke compared his second bonding with Luther to the second bonding Odion had to go through. He said, you know the struggles that it takes to get through a second bonding. So the Twilight Dragon must have been previously bonded to someone else. I assumed it was the previous ruler's Twilight Dragon.
Okay. And I was thinking that myself, but it's always one of those. Shimmy! Alright, now on to true form. They have a virtue true form. They have to embody the ideals of justice. And again, I see a lot of connections between nightmares and this. So outside of the Trial of Worth here, where you have to sacrifice for one and be willing to be sacrificed for the other, they are fairly similar in power sets and similarities of that. Their true form appearance is basically once they achieve it, they become permanently half black and half white, and they're dissected directly down the middle. So I guess that answers my question from earlier. I guess a normal Twilight Dragon will be pixelated essentially of white and black. The white side will have feather wings, the black side will have leathery wings, and dark side has moon spines and crescent moon horn, and the lighter side will have a sun-shaped spine and a sun horn. Their ability is Revenge of the Fallen Sun, and that is when a aura becomes more powerful and their darkness blots out the sun. Then there's Halo of Light, Searing Corona, lights up the sky with a ring of red that will permanently blind all who gaze upon it. So you're getting blinded twice.
That's a real bad. Permanently blinded.
And even like the name of the true form ability, Revenge of the Fallen Sun. That sounds like a final boss move. Dude. In-world lore, Twilight Dragons are both terrifying and majestic. They have horrific bonding requirements, and once they do have an Arcanist, many are justice and powerful warriors. And because of the duality of their nature, many people only trust the Twilight Dragons once they are bonded, and I believe that queuing therewith makes them more stable. Finally, some real-world inspiration based on the Vietnamese myths about sun being devoured during an eclipse. But Vietnam isn't the only culture to say the sun is consumed. Native American, Choctaw, Indian, and Javanese myths also involve sun being eaten. We see many stories about the sun being in peril, inspired all the powers and lore behind the Twilight Dragon, from the fact that only bond with people who have killed their previous allies to the sun, justice, and revenge. Mind blown.
Wild.
That's a really, really, I don't want to say OP, but gosh dang.
It's got some power.
Yeah, I don't want to mess with that one. And with that, though, we are going to end this week's episode. Not next week, the following week, we are going to be sitting down with John Stovall to talk about his new books, Demon Card Enforcer, Demon Card Enforcer 2, and an insane pace of release. He's going to be releasing Demon Card Enforcer 3 sometime early to mid-February, so we're going to talk to him a little bit more about that series in general. See if we can get a couple little hints and tips into the next book and how that is. All right, we do appreciate everybody for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week.